Everything changed in less than 12 minutes. A single recording, never meant to leave a tightly guarded circle, suddenly landed inside a federal courtroom. The person who delivered it wasn't an outsider or an enemy. It was someone trusted with the deepest secret. And now, what's on that tape could unravel far more than anyone expected.
No one predicted this turn. Not seasoned legal commentators, not veteran campaign tacticians, not even those embedded within Trump's trusted circle who believed they had already mapped out every possible outcome. One secured document, one recorded conversation. 11 minutes and 43 seconds of sound that Pam Bondi, the individual Donald Trump once relied on for his most confidential legal concerns, personally delivered into the hands of a federal judge. And the instant that recording became part of the official case file, the landscape shifted, not slowly, not through drawn-out legal wrangling, in a matter of hours, inside one courtroom. Triggered by a move no one aligned with Trump saw coming, because before anything else, you need to grasp this. Pam Bondi wasn't merely an ally. She wasn't just a former top law enforcement official who stood by him during turbulent times. She was entrusted with proximity, with document, with exchanges never meant to travel beyond a tightly controlled inner group, the kind of figure you include precisely because you believe silence is guaranteed. That assumption just unraveled in the most visible and impactful way possible.
And Trump's reaction? He didn't hold back. He didn't delegate the response to attorneys. He escalated beyond expectations. People familiar with the situation say he is pushing for criminal charges against Bondi, not a civil dispute, not a lawsuit, prison. A formal accusation of criminal wrongdoing for what he describes as intentional disloyalty that shattered every legal boundary meant to keep that recording out of court. The atmosphere at Mar-a-Lago following the revelation has been described as unprecedented, even by those accustomed to years of high-stakes turmoil. So what's actually on that audio? That's the question dominating conversations among analysts, reporters, and insiders alike. The recording involves Melania Trump. That detail has been independently confirmed. It spans 11 minutes and 43 seconds, featuring her voice clearly, discussing topics Trump's legal team had carefully worked to keep hidden, shielded from scrutiny, excluded from evidence.
This wasn't a sudden discovery. The recording had existed. A limited number of individuals within Trump's legal and political environment were aware of it for some time. The uncertainty was never about its existence. It was about possession, control, and whether it would ever surface in a formal legal setting. Bondi's choice to release it, done with legal guidance and through official procedures, goes far beyond a simple disclosure. This was not a leak. It was a calculated submission, a deliberate act of placing evidence into an active federal case. That difference is critical because leaks can be dismissed, attacked, or ignored. A formal filing becomes part of the record. It undergoes verification. It carries institutional weight. And Pam Bondi, regardless of perspective, is someone who understands exactly what it means to walk into a courthouse and present evidence to a judge. She knew the consequences. She proceeded anyway. Here's what has been described about those 11 minutes. According to individuals briefed on the general nature of the recording, though not its full sealed contents, it captures Melania discussing internal legal strategies tied to one of the most sensitive areas of financial exposure within the Trump Organization.
Specifically, what she knew and when she knew it. More importantly, how she was advised to frame that knowledge if ever required to testify under oath about periods when major financial decisions were being made. This isn't casual conversation. It's substantive material, and it intersects directly with issues prosecutors have been investigating for years. Now, things become more complicated. Melania Trump has consistently maintained distance from her husband's legal battles. She has not testified, she has not been formally compelled to appear. Her name has appeared occasionally, but never as a central figure. Part of that distance has relied on the argument that her involvement was limited, that she existed in a personal sphere, not an operational one, and therefore had little to contribute evidentially. That position is now under pressure. Because if the recording reflects what sources suggest, a candid and detailed account of her understanding of financial matters during critical periods, then the protective barrier around her role begins to weaken significantly.
She wasn't merely present, she was informed, and within 11 minutes and 43 seconds, she reportedly articulated that understanding in a conversation she never expected to reach a courtroom. What happens next procedurally is crucial and often overlooked. The recording is now with the court. Its fate depends on a series of legal challenges that Trump's team is expected to pursue aggressively. They will question authenticity. They will invoke privilege. They will file urgent motions arguing that the recording was obtained or shared improperly. These arguments are not baseless. Some carry legitimate legal weight. But there's a complication. Bondi is not an outsider. She is not someone acting impulsively or without understanding. She is a former attorney general with deep familiarity with legal standards, supported by experienced counsel and operating under a defined legal rationale for submitting the recording. She anticipated resistance. She moved forward anyway. That confidence may be more concerning than the recording itself, because if her legal footing is sound, if there is a valid path for this audio to be accepted and considered, then its contents shift from controversy to evidence. And courts do not operate on political narratives. They focus on proof. Now, consider why Trump is calling for criminal action. When the response targets the person presenting evidence rather than the evidence itself, it suggests a belief that the material cannot easily be discredited. The argument centers on breach of privilege. Some legal experts agree it's worth examining. If Bondi obtained the recording under conditions that established privilege, disclosure could carry consequences. But privilege is not absolute.
There are recognized exceptions, most notably the crime-fraud exception, which allows otherwise protected communications to be introduced if they are connected to unlawful conduct. If Bondi's team is relying on that exception, and indications suggest they are, then challenging privilege becomes risky, because arguing that point in court forces a judge to examine whether those communications were tied to wrongdoing. That is not a path Trump's legal team would want to widen. Melania's role in this situation is unprecedented within the broader history of the family's legal challenges. She has remained largely silent throughout. Through criminal cases, civil proceedings, appeals, and political battles, she has stayed outside the central conflict. Now, her voice exists within a federal case file, captured in a recording submitted by someone she trusted, despite full awareness of the consequences. There is another layer to this story that hasn't been openly stated but is widely understood by those who have followed these events closely. The inner circle is tightening. Individuals who once held access to sensitive information are reassessing their positions. Bondi's move is not isolated. It reflects a broader shift among those who were once close to key decisions now under scrutiny, and that shift matters.
Because when one person acts, others take notice. Anyone who was present during critical moments, who handled documents, participated in discussions, or had insight into decisions now being examined, all are watching. Bondi's action is not just a legal maneuver, it's a signal, and signals resonate with those positioned to receive them. The recording is now in the court's hands. Melania's voice is part of the record. Trump is demanding accountability from the person who placed it there, and the court is determining what comes next. This situation is not stabilizing. It is gaining momentum. When you fully understand the stakes tied to those 11 minutes and 43 seconds, it becomes clear why what follows will not be quiet or controlled. The recording exists, the court possesses it, and everyone involved is now calculating what it means for them. Watch closely, because what emerges from that courtroom in the coming weeks could reshape this entire narrative in ways few are ready for, even those who set it in motion.